Hello, Tracy here, and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. If today's layout or process seems a little familiar to you, that's because it is. It is a scrap lift of myself, actually. It was just a couple of days ago that I created a layout called Happy Girl, and in that video I played around with pairing really soft light colors with some bold black and white accents. And in this case, I matted the photo, or not the photo, I matted the whole page with that black and white paper all the way around the edge. And you guys know I love to add black and white accents, but this idea of pairing it with really soft colors, I'm usually a very bright and vibrant scrapbooker, so I tend to choose colors that are very intense. And so this was very different for me, and I used a lot of Sue's Fish's products in it from her Happy Day kit from Felicity Jane, and I really love how it turned out. But I wanted to play around a little bit more with that idea, and so I'm going to scrap lift my own project today because I just wanted to play around with the idea of having a Brayered painted background, which is something that I've always loved, and pairing it with some black and white accents, but I'm giving it a little bit of a different spin. I basically just wanted another chance to play with this idea, and I didn't really intend to scrap lift myself. But once I was midway into it, I realized, hey, this is feeling an awful lot like the other one, and so I just decided to run with it rather than start all over again and try a different design. So I hope that you enjoy this process. So I'm starting here with my Wheel of Wonder, which is something that I use to get myself started every once in a while. I made that, and there's a video about how I made it. And my Wheel of Wonder told me that I have to use confetti this time, and so that's going to be my challenge. I haven't used confetti in quite some time, so as I trim up my photo, I'm just thinking about how I might incorporate confetti. And of course, I was wanting to use soft colors, and so I thought I'll punch myself some soft confetti. I grabbed my three different confetti punches, and this is the inspiration piece for this whole project. It's a beautiful floral patterned paper that Stephanie Hart gave me. It came in a Studio Calico kit, and it is stunning. When I saw it, my mouth was watering. I wanted it so much, and she actually gave me both of her pieces of it. So that was very, very kind of her. So I definitely wasn't hinting around, but it was nice of her to give it to me. I have my Cute Girl wood veneers, which I haven't used yet. I really like them, and you see that I actually put some foil on some of them, and I'm thinking that they might make a nice embellishment with this. And then I pulled out the Take Me Away collection from Paige Evans. It's a pink paisley collection, and I'm pulling out that square piece of pattern paper with all the squares all over it, because that'll make a nice print for me to punch confetti out of. And then I also have this large scrap that is basically these giant sequins on that pattern paper. And then I took a look at these frames, which I really love these frames. I love how hand-drawn they look, and I'm not a great drawer, so I always like an opportunity to put something like this on my page. So I grabbed that You and Me because it is a page about Scott and I. And I'm just having a look through. I'm sorry that you can't really see all these papers, but I have shown this collection in quite a bit of detail in a kit share video, like in a collection share video. So then I grabbed the Dear Lizzie Saturday collection. I tend to use these two together quite a lot. They are different, but the Saturday collection has slightly deeper colors, not quite as soft. And I really like the black and whites in that collection because it's like a softer black and white. It's more of a gray and white, a very dark gray or charcoal. So I'm just going to start by using my ruler to trim up that piece of sequin paper from Take Me Away. And then of course I have that Studio Calico paper under my photo, which is the inspiration piece, and then my photo and the You and Me. And my intention here was to use my brayer to apply some paint to my background, and in that way I was intending to scrap lift myself from my page on I think it was last Monday. That page will be linked, by the way. So I'm starting with a piece of vellum that's folded in half to be for 3x4, which is the size of that card. But I plan to cut down this card, so that vellum is going to be a little bit too big after I cut down the card. So I'm fussy cutting all around the outside edge of this fancy frame. And when I do so, I have my elbow tucked into my body to keep my right hand and arm completely stationary. And all that I'm doing is I'm opening and closing the scissors with my right hand. My left hand is doing all of the fussy work by moving the paper around as it needs to move so that I'm trimming it up with a very tiny white border all the way around the edge. And the white border makes it less obvious when your edges are not perfectly smooth. So it gives you a bit of a buffer when you jig, when you're supposed to jag and you accidentally come a little bit too close, you're cutting into the white instead of cutting into the pink edge of the frame. So I'm almost finished with that. I'm not being too careful with it. Using the white border all the way around the edge allows you to go a little bit faster than you would if you were trying to cut right on the line. And now, of course, my vellum is too big, so I'm just having a look at where I'm going to need to cut it. I'm just going to pull that over to the bottom corner of my grid mat so that I can measure it. And I'm going to take a little bit off, not quite enough, it's still showing a little bit, so I'll take off a little bit more. My grid mat, by the way, is a Martha Stewart grid mat. It's a very large one. I forget the size of it, but it is the kind that folds in half. So I just used that little piece of spongy foam to poke my scissors through the center part of that frame and cut it out. Once I poked my scissors in, then I could do a better job of going all the way around the edge and trimming it up nicely. And now what I should have done is trimmed that to fit before I glued it, but I was not so thoughtful, so I didn't do that. This is just a little bit harder. It's not that much harder. It doesn't make that big of a difference. But now what I have is this vellum potential pocket, and I'm going to bring it over to my sewing machine here. That's my kitty cat Chloe sleeping on my daughter's taco costume. I'm sewing a U shape all the way around this piece of vellum behind the frame, and I'm sewing it, and I backstitched one side but not the other side, so you're going to see me go back here and reinforce the other side as well. I don't know why I'm doing that. I guess I knew that I'd be pulling on it a little bit in order to open it to put the confetti inside. And so I basically sewed a pocket into that and left the top open. And then I accidentally put permanent adhesive on this You and Me. This is the center that I cut out of this frame to begin with. I want to attach it to the vellum so that it doesn't move around, but I used temporary adhesive. So I just had to cover up that permanent adhesive with a little scrap of vellum that I'll just pull off later. So now I'm using my Ecoline brush pen, and I have a whole set of these, and I haven't really scrapbooked with them. I use them in my doodling journal, and I'm just kind of practicing with taking my own penmanship that I already have and making it into brush, but I'm not very good at it yet. So instead of trying to use my own handwriting, I thought I would just use the handwriting that was already there and already beautiful. So I used the gray Ecoline brush pen. Any brush pen would work. And because it's on vellum, you just have to give it a minute to dry. It will dry, just don't smear it right away. It'll smear if you try to touch it right away, but if you wait just maybe about a minute, it's completely dry. And so now I have a beautiful You and Me written out in my own marker, but it's not my own handwriting, so it looks much nicer than it would if I tried to use my own handwriting at this point. Maybe someday I'll get better at that. And I'm just using one strip of those squares to punch confetti. And I'm just using the circles. I had picked out a couple of heart punches as well, but I decided to just use the circles. And That gives me a nice batch of confetti. What I like about it is that about half of the shapes get flipped upside down, so you get that darker pink that's on the back side of the paper, and about half of the shapes stay right side up, and so you get the colors. But I felt like it was getting a little bit too busy with lots of different colors and then that dark one, and I wanted to add some that would be white, and so I just grabbed a piece of white cardstock from my stash and punched, I think, 3 more strips with that. And you just cut off the used strips when you're finished, like the already punched part, to expose and reveal like more of the pattern paper that you can continue to punch. It's taking me a little bit to get those in, and I had to give it a really good shaking because all of the colored pieces were at the bottom and all of the white pieces were at the top. So I just had to really shake it up really good so that the white was mixed in with the colored. And then I just sewed across the top to enclose that little pocket, and it's really nice. I really like how it turned out. Now it looks a little plain though, so I'm going to go around it. I'm going to outline it with my gray Chamel outlining pen from American Crafts. I love this pen. So far, it's been holding up really well. I was a little bit worried that it might go dry because a lot of my other American Crafts pens have gone dry. Now that looks nice, but it's just not adding quite enough boldness. So I'm going back with my super fine black pen. I don't want these little, and I'm doodling around all the other little darker pink elements on this frame. And I don't want this black part to be really standing out relative to the gray that's already on there, which is why I chose super fine as the tip, and that's basically a 0.01 tip. And that's my Faber-Castell Pitt pen. And I like how that looks. It just gives it a little bit more boldness. It makes it stand out a little bit more on the page, just a tiny bit more. I don't want it standing out a whole lot. And now, because that pocket creates quite a bit of bulge, there is a lot of sequins in that pocket. The frame is actually standing up off of the page because of the bulge that the pocket causes in the middle part of the frame. So I just used some Stampin' Up! Adhesive. I haven't actually adhered it down onto my layers yet. But, my camera hates white paper, so that's what this is all about. Sorry about that. I did not mean to leave I don't usually leave a plain piece of white by itself in frame. So I'm just, as my other layout, so this part of the process is almost exactly the same as the other page. That is the Happy Girl page. And this time I'm using the exact same color even. I thought about changing the color, but there is that kind of pinky purple in some of the patterns that I already have chosen on this page. So it just made the most sense to just use the same color. I knew how it looked and I knew it was going to look good, so I just went with it. So I'm using Basics acrylic paint, and when you apply paint with a brayer, it goes on so thin that it's dry to the touch almost immediately. So I don't typically use gesso when I'm applying paint with a brayer. My cardstock, it's white American Crafts cardstock that I'm using, it is getting a little bit warped from where those layers of paint are, but I'm not too concerned about it. And it's dry enough that I can literally put those layers right on. It's not 100% dry. It will dry even more, and it will become less warped as it does dry. But I like the immediacy of brayering paint. You can just kind of get it done and be done with it. So I have 2 options for how I'm going to frame this. You guys know that the thing I'm trying to do here is replicate the Brayered paint and then a black and white border. And I've decided to go with the more bold of the 2 as my border. They're both from Saturday from Dear Lizzie. And I'm going to use this less bold paper, the one with the numbers, in my layers, but not exactly like that. So this is the point at which I realized, wait a minute, this is feeling almost exactly like the other one. So I pulled it out so that I could have a look and see just how similar they were. And I don't want them to be exactly the same. And it wasn't really my intention to make them that similar. So I just changed the orientation of that black and white paper and cut it down, or I actually tore it down into a square. And now I'm pulling out the black and white kit from Freckled Fawn. That's that pocket over there with the bows all over it. And that is the September Oh Dear Me kit. And I'm pulling out a couple of other things from my stash, including some silver and white washi tape. And I'm going to pick what I consider to be the funkiest of those puffy cameras from Freckled Fawn. It's one that's black with some like hand-drawn lines all over it. And then this white acrylic chip, it's a sparkly heart. It's so pretty. I love it. And I'm going to layer one of the labels from that same kit as well. It's just a black and white label. I love that kit. I wish I had bought several of it because I'm going to run out of those things. The heart, the camera, and the label. And then I thought I would add some of these phrase stickers from Freckled Fawn as well. They're so cute. And I like the Like a Boss. It just it's a fun statement with Scott's pose there. And then I also like the one that says silly. So I'm going to layer the Like a Boss so that it layers over the black camera. And then I'm going to layer the silly so that it layers over the white heart. And I like the contrast that gives, layering black on white and white on black. So now it's time to stick things down. So I'm going to take the backings off of the pop dots that I have here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to put one on the little layer of chipboard that extends over so that it's supported. And I actually need another layer of foam adhesive there because it's layered over 2 layers. It's layered over the puffy sticker and the frame. And that'll help it to sit flat. And I think I can scooch that heart right into that space. Yeah, it fits just on the other side of that dimensional. There's dimensional adhesive right under the word boss, so I had to get the pointy part of the heart so that it wasn't under the dimensional adhesive. And now I will stick this layer to that layer and those layers to that layer. Not the most helpful commentary, is it? I'm sorry about that. So now I'm just feeling that, and as I said, it's already dried to the touch, but it is just a little bit warped. So I'm just hitting it with my heat gun to flatten it out a little bit. Because when I attach my layers, I want them to actually stick. And if I try to attach them to damp paint, they're not going to stick so well. So I'm taking 1/4 of an inch off of every side of this, and I could have just taken 1/2 of an inch off of 2 adjacent sides, but because I had already applied my paint, I didn't want to end up with a lopsided page, so I just took it off equally on all the sides. And then I just cut the manufacturer's strip off of that striped paper from the Saturday collection. And now I'm using my Tim Holtz Distress tool to rough up these edges. And that gives, when you rough up a really good quality cardstock, it gives a really nice fibrous look. It almost looks like frayed fabric on the edges. And I really love the added texture that brings to a page. And when I chose the orientation of those stripes, see how 2 of the stripes don't go all the way to the top? I wanted those to be on the top as opposed to on the bottom because it gives a slight airy feel when there's that incompleted line at the top. I just took a piece of upholstery thread, and that wants to keep a circle, so I like that about that kind of thread. It's very thick. And it's bold too when you use it in black. So I just use my tiny attacher. I cut it like this and just separate it out with my fingers and use my tiny attacher. Now that thread wants to be neat. It wants to make a nice neat circle. So it happened to work okay on the other side without adding glue, but on this side I had to add glue in order to be able to spread out that circle and make it look a little less neat. The other side, I was able to stick it in so that it was sticking on some foam adhesive that was already there. And so the foam adhesive held the thread in the messy state that I wanted it to be in. So this is, I guess, my secondary cluster right here, and it's not going to be much of one. I'm mostly just going to have one cluster on this, but I thought I'd add a piece of washi tape and a staple. It looks like that's how the photo is attached. I thought about adding this really adorable clip that I just love. I got it from Studio Calico, but there's just no place for it on this page, or I can't find the place for it on the page right now anyways. So I'm just, again, playing around with placement and trying to decide what else this page needs. And I'm thinking about the title, and I want the title to be bold. I guess I'm tidying up a little bit before I move on to the title, but in a minute I'm going to pull my Razzcog over to my station. Here I am, hello. And I'm picking out any black foam stickers. You'll have to excuse my hair. I was out in the rain and my hair just went a little crazy. My hair is always crazy, but that's okay. It's crazy in a different way today. So I'm looking at black foam letter stickers because they add the kind of impact that I want to have. And so I really love these Calberteschi ones, and I wish I could use them. Those are the Amy Tan ones that are over on the right-hand side. I wish I could use them, but they're just too small. I always want to use them when I want to add a really bold title, and I like the sketchiness of them. I really love Calberteschi's handwriting. But they're just not going to work for this page, and they often don't work because they're too small. Anyhow, I'm going to use these Afterglow ones by Amy Tangerine as well, and I thought about putting Goof in Afterglow and then Balls in Calberteschi, but no, I don't like that at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the whole title in Afterglow. I like Afterglow because it's tall and thin, but it's not as skinny as some tall and thin ones, and it has some weight to it that some of the really skinny fonts don't have, and so I like that about Afterglow. It's very casual too. It looks handwritten. It looks like it's just kind of jotted down with a marker or something, but it's got the dimension of a foam sticker. So I just added that little heart over there to balance off with the title. I like to add little bits of thickers elsewhere on my page, not just in the title. I like to add an asterisk or a V or an ampersand or something that comes on the sheet. I love it when thickers have some extra shapes besides just letters. So I just had to make sure that the G was placed in the right place, that all of this would line up, so that I would have enough room for the exclamation point, which I don't always use an exclamation point, but I thought that it deserved one in this page. And now, because of the foam adhesive under that frame, I have to trim off a little bit of the exclamation point, because it was interfering with the foam piece underneath the frame. And now I ran out of adhesive, so I'm just replacing it. I'm using a dot runner from Scrapbook Adhesives, and I really like it. I like a see-through tape runner. It's got a bit of a blue tint to it, but it's pretty much see-through. And that's the page. So what happened there was actually when I put the title on, I had forgotten to glue down my layers. So I had to pull it back and add my adhesive so that the whole thing would stay put. And now I'm thinking about adding a subtitle here. And the subtitle, I wanted to say just a couple of above the photo. And what I'm really looking for, I have in mind what I want. I'm looking for my October Afternoon Mini Market letter stickers in pink. I have two different kinds of pink. I have one that's pink tiles with white letters on them, and one that is pink tiles with like an orangey letter. And I think that orangey one would be perfect here because there is a bit of a peachy orangey color in some of those sequins in the pattern paper. But I can't for the life of me find either of those sets of letter stickers. I have no idea where they are. And everything is put away. It's not like my room is a disaster or anything. So I picked out these Bo Bunny ones because I'm stuck on the idea of using pink letter stickers. And so look at me, I'm going again and again, and I just can't find them. And I want them to be tile letter stickers. I don't want them to be shaped. I know I see those L ones there, those Ellie Studio pink ones that you can see. They're not going to do it because I want a tile. So I'm kind of annoyed because my scrap room is actually completely all tidied up right now, and I still can't find these pink letter stickers. The only thing that I can think of is they might have gotten put in with some papers. I know I pulled them out for my The Doctors Are In kit. And so maybe when I was putting away the paper for that, maybe the letters got put in with some paper somewhere. That's the only explanation I can have. So I'm going with gray. It's, as you can tell, it's not my first choice, but gray will work okay. I'm going to shorten the title because it's not the letter stickers that I want. I'm just going to call it a couple of instead of just a couple of. And if I had had the pink letter stickers, I would have put just right above A and couple, I guess. So it would have been kind of, I guess, it would have been left justified and above. But this is okay too. And you know, there's gray elsewhere in this page. And the Dear Lizzie Saturday collection, it's really a gray pattern paper. Like those pops of black are actually pops of really dark gray. So it's okay. Now I have these varnish stickers from Dear Lizzie as well that I thought might make a nice, basically I want to add a couple of really plain embellishments around the thread and the washi tape just to accentuate and draw your attention over there because that's where the title starts. So it's really just kind of, I think about this as one cluster of embellishments over by the pocket with the confetti and the hearts and the labels and that sort of thing. And then over here, the secondary cluster that's over to the left is more of a cluster that just brings your attention to the beginning of the title. So I disappeared for a second and I made I put black sewing all the way around the edge of the white cardstock. And now I'm just pulling it up to add even more texture and to emphasize that really soft distressed edge of the white cardstock. I really like how that looks. I didn't bring my camera over because it's really late at this point and I just kind of forgot and didn't bring my camera over to my sewing machine. I did it super fast. So now this is my Try Art palette that I'm using for splatters these days. We'll see if this works. I also use it for other things, but like as a palette to hold my work and stuff. But I attached a piece of parchment paper and I am going to splatter some Liquitex ink and I'm using my Heidi Swap nozzle to do so because it gives me smaller splatters than the ink dropper that comes with that ink. And so I'm just putting splatters around those two clusters that I just talked about a few minutes ago. And you're going to see just how cheap I am in a few minutes. I'm actually going to clean off those pieces of of packaging so I can use them over again. I even reuse packaging. But there were only little tiny drips on them, so I thought, what the heck. So this is my Try Arts palette. If you're interested in learning more about it, it's in my Around the Craft Room video that's on my channel. It's one of the more recent videos if you just go down from this one. So here's what this one looks like up close. And I really like how it looks. I like the boldness. I like the funness. Funness, that's not really a word, but I like the fun energy that this page has. I really love those pops of black and how this page, although it's very, very similar to the other page, and I'm going to show you the two of them together in just a second, what I really like about this one is that it doesn't have all of the soft elements, and I really love the soft elements on that other one, but it's not something that I do very often. I probably make one of those really pretty delicate pages maybe once or twice a year. Early Morning Beauty was the first one of those that I ever made, and that was probably 4 years ago now, where I just kind of really went ultra feminine, ultra soft. And then since Early Morning Beauty, I make one of these every 6 months maybe, a real soft, pretty, frilly layout like the Happy Girl one over there on the right. And I think that the layout on the left is more consistent with my regular style. And so it's just kind of another way that you can take some trends that you might see other people doing, like using really soft frilly things. And I've got some soft colors on this one, but the embellishments are more bold and more consistent with the other projects that are in my album. And I do tend to gravitate towards the really, really bright colors. And so the pop of color that frame gives to this page really offsets all of the black and white. And I really like how it looks. I just kind of had fun playing with another iteration of the same page from Happy Girl. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this process and have a really great scrappy week.